a lot of people you listen to or hear, especially on the net, seem to focus on the description of enlightenment more than anything else. It's very poetic and it's very beautiful, and I have such an admiration firstly for anyone who has realised the cessation of suffering, and also for their ability to describe, which is fantastic. But to my mind, that only represents the 1%, the 1% inspiration. What about the 99% perspiration of the path, and actually dealing with the obstructions, the things that get in the way of somebody realising the truth of themselves? That doesn't seem to be quite so...
Perhaps I think it will put people off from trying, I don't know. Because it can be pretty tough, can't it? You have to face everything.
Yes,
and we're
people
not
don't...
all nice.
No. We've got greed, we've got lust, we've got hatreds, we've got conceits of many different kinds. You think we've relied, especially if you include rebirth in this, for lifetimes, we've had this rule book that is how we interpret life, the shoulds and the shouldn'ts. And we depend on that emotionally. And you enter into this training in which you explore every part of your conscious experience, and in so doing you come to realise that a lot of those views that you held in the rule book that you keep is actually in what's the word I'm looking for? It contradicts reality. And so you have to give up that rule book, you have to give up those rules. But there is an emotional dependency upon them. So that's why following a spiritual path can be intense at times. But you have to be brave, you have to be courageous, you have to be willing to face your fears, your anxieties, your depression, your lust, all those past mistakes that you don't like to think about, all those things in the past that other people did to you that now arise in your mind. Are you willing to transform your view of what happened? All those sorts of things. And that's what makes the path tough. And it is hard. So I'm not a fan of the idea that there's nothing you need to do to become enlightened other than just realise that you already are, because people aren't. And there are very deep emotional obstructions to having that mind which is free from any clinging, grasping, attachment, free from any craving for life to be different than it is. That is the mind that can then is then just simply open for the truth to manifest. See, because that last bit, that's the easy bit. Enlightenment is easy. It's so simple. It's called the stepless step.
Okay,
stepless. You don't even have to take a step. It's so you have to move. It's not even so complex. The easy bit. It's everything before it. That's yeah.
Okay, yes, the majority of it.
Yeah. You don't do the bit at the end. That just happens. It's the rest. It's the dealing with your attachments, and that's not easy. It's not easy. Which is why having a well-defined description of the path and the resolution of the path, of course, why having a community, having somewhere to go regularly, spending time training intensively in mindfulness in an environment which is supportive and is set up to be sympathetic and so forth. To have a teaching which shows you how to live your life well in the dream, so that you can reduce the size of the waves on this ocean of suffering, to allow you this psychological space in order to look clearly at what's going on. To have someone there that has been through it all and understands it, and knows what you're going through and is willing to help talk you through it. Nobody enlightens anyone else. I mean, that's the thing. But having somebody there who you can talk to, who understands what you're going through and can help guide you.
I think for me that's possibly the most reassuring, because I know that anything that comes up in my mind has been experienced by you in some form or another. So I can come and spout a lot of weird stuff and you'll go, oh yeah, usually you laugh. You go, ha ha ha, oh you're suffering, ha. But then it's very helpful, because I know that whatever's happening in this mind has happened in yours at some stage, and you understand firstly what's going on, and secondly how to move on through it.
Yeah, and I think that's why having a framework of a teaching like Buddha Dhamma is so helpful, because you're not just saying, oh, this is just what I did, and that's, because for some people, I'm sure they have realised the cessation of suffering in this lifetime without doing particularly any work. And so that's what they describe to other people, because that's what they know. Whereas when you have the framework of the Buddha's teaching, you've got so much more lateral kind of knowledge. There's a knowledge of different character types and how different people approach the path. So you're able to therefore be of assistance to more people, and in a more effective way, because you're actually saying, no, there is something you can do. And yeah, I had begun the spiritual journey before I found my teacher, Alan, and I have strong memories of there being occasions when I was looking at reality and seeing how uncontrollable it was. There's one particular episode when I was in India that really I've always retained, and I just experienced the most goddamn awful fear, because I realised I couldn't control anything. But I had nobody there I could talk to. And I kind of went through it alone, thinking I was going pretty mad. And actually what I was looking at was an insight into non-self, conditionality, the fact that events arise entirely spontaneously. There's nobody there controlling it. It was extremely scary. And I got through, but in hindsight I was glad I eventually found somebody and a centre and a teaching that I could anchor myself in, so that I knew that I could go through those really difficult times.
Yes,
We're making it sound all difficult. I mean,
it's not though, is it?
No.
But there are, I mean, since I've started coming here, life has got progressively easier. I mean, my outside life hasn't changed, but inwardly, life has just become easier. So there are positives, aren't there?
Yeah.
There are tricky bits, but on the whole, it's just transformed my life enormously. So much easier. Problems don't have anywhere near the huge significance that they used to have these days.
Yeah, because there's a greater understanding of the process that's unfolding, because there is a willingness to explore that in real terms, not just an intellectually conceptualizing all of this, but going through the actual emotional learning of actually experiencing these things mindfully and seeing where it is that we're resisting. It's resistance that creates complication in life.
And I think that's the easing of life is quite important to emphasise, because everyone seems to talk about enlightenment all the time, and it's not often pointed out that even along the way, just life gets easier.
Yeah.
I don't think that's very often discussed. It's either you start here and then you've got this fabulous enlightenment and life's wonderful at the end, but in the middle, it's like sort of, I don't know, it's like you start to go downhill after a while, and it's just you sliding rather than fighting against it.
Yes. Yeah. I think there are certainly times when, throughout the course of the training, where the suffering feels as real and as apparent as it ever has. But this is a bit like fitness training. When you're actually engaged in the fitness training, it feels just as hard and as as painful as ever it was. But actually, you find yourself going for a lot longer, and your powers of recovery are that much greater. So at the time, it might feel just as painful, but subsequently you realise, no, I have moved on tremendously. And so I think there are times on the spiritual path where it's similar, where perhaps something is being seen now in a way that hadn't been seen before, and therefore it feels like you're suffering just as much. But actually, there is so much more comprehension. And this is often a word which is not used in connection with mindfulness, but it's always mindfulness and comprehension, the clear comprehension of what this is. Not just being mindful of it to get rid of it, being mindful of it in order to completely understand it, and understanding how it is your resistance, the resistance to what is going on, which is the real problem, not the thing in and of itself, whatever that thing happens to be.
Yes.